In the 25 years since, has your stance sort of softened or mellowed Vince McMahon's opinion or side?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much straight on like what it was. I mean, when I first heard from WWE before I ever heard from Bret, for like Bruce Pritchard and other people in WWE, and kind of got that side. And then I talked to Bret the day after and talked to him and at length. And I mean, the key thing, I mean, as far as like, I mean, I get both sides of it, but I think that if you're going to really like look at it, I mean, so much of the stuff that people use to defend the Vince side is based on stuff that simply isn't true. Like he was going to go to WCW the next day, which was never going to happen, or that this, Montreal was not. I mean, it ended up being his last match, but he was actually booked for another month. I mean, that's the one thing. It's like it was never him refusing to lose. I mean, he absolutely refused to lose that match on that day, but it was never about him refusing to lose. If he had said, if it was one of those things where, and this is what I was first told, and this is what the wrestlers were told too, is that he refused to lose the championship in the ring. If he had done that, I would have, even with the creative control aspect of the contract, I would have said he was in the wrong. But it was never about that. It was a series of weird situations where, because of what Shawn said to him and because of other things that had happened, like even later in the week, I just think there's a lot of minor parts that always get overlooked over the idea that Bret wouldn't do the job. I mean, if you put that same situation with, I don't care if it was Harley Race or Jack Briscoe or Bruno Sammartino in that same situation, none of them would have lost either in that situation where the other guy goes, I'm not going to put you over. And then, Vince, the Wednesday before, I mean, he had the answer. He went to Shawn and goes like, if you lose first, he'll lose on the way out. And Shawn said no. So at that point, it's kind of like, I don't know where the issue is with Bret. I mean, a lot of people have made the issue with Bret and made it the simplified version is a lot easier to take Vince's side on, but it really wasn't a simplified version. It was a very complicated version. There's really a lot of details that, between the contract situation and, the creative control, which was a big key. And, but, on Vince's side, he was leaving. And, so, I mean, yeah, it's, but no, I mean, I would say that the opinion that I had probably by Wednesday of that week or Tuesday of that week, for the most part, even with stuff I've learned since, it's pretty much the same opinion, yeah.
You'll probably know this probably almost better than anyone, I suppose, maybe than Vince himself, but was he really close to downsizing into a Northeastern promotion, or was that just a line spun to Bret at the time to make him feel bad and take the lower offer?
Yeah, I don't think that they ever would have done that. I mean, they may have had to downsize. I mean, there was a point where they were losing money, and there was a point where they were downsizing. They were making cuts. They cut people's salaries and things like that. They did have to take out loans. By the time Montreal came along, that was already taken care of because they raised the price of the pay-per-views, the B pay-per-views, and the numbers of who bought the B pay-per-views also went up. So they were profitable by then. A couple months earlier, when they took out the loans, they were not profitable. When they asked Bret originally to take the pay cut, they were not profitable at that time, and they had to take out loans. But I mean, as far as becoming a Northeast regional company, that wasn't going to happen because economically, regional wrestling died a decade earlier. You couldn't go backwards. If Vince tried to go backwards, I mean, yeah, he would have gotten killed by WCW if he had retrenched. WCW would have taken over the whole country, and he couldn't afford that to happen at that point.
Why do you think so many wrestlers, especially in the last few years, have come out and said, "Oh, it's a work. It never happened. Come on, it worked out too perfectly." I even interviewed Savio Vega a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "I was in the arena. I saw Vince McMahon wobbling out after Bret punched him, and I just went, he looked like he was acting, so I don't believe it." It's like, how come so many people?
I mean, wrestlers are used to being skeptical of everything. I mean, I remember when I remember hanging out with wrestlers telling me the NFL was a work too. So it's like. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it's like there's there's a lot of legal documentation of it, which doesn't happen with the work. I mean, with the work, like with Hulk Hogan when he did the same thing. I mean, his lawsuits, you know, with Turner and everything, that laid everything out was a work. But with Bret, it was the exact opposite. So no, it wasn't. I actually think that like wrestlers who think it was, I kind of feel sorry for them, because it's like you've got to be really deluded to still think that at this point.
Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Enough is enough! Booty poo candy ass! I had him writhing in pain from my sharpshooter. Rocky! Rocky! I am not a nugget!
Stick him straight up your candy ass!
I kicked your leg out of your leg.
The Rock has come back!